In 1978, a low-budget horror film would become the most successful independent films ever made for its time, and usher in a wave of countless slasher films. That film was John Carpenter's Halloween. Originally titled The Babysitter Murders, producer Irwin Yablin suggested that the film should take place over one night for budgetary reasons, and they decided that Halloween would be the perfect night for an escaped lunatic to go on a murder spree. This decision would change the face of horror forever. Between 1978 and 1984, hundreds of low-budget slashers were produced to cash in on the success of the original Halloween. Huge franchises were born, such as Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Child's Play, to name a few. These monsters would become household names. Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Chucky, and Pinhead have entered the cultural lexicon much like Dracula and the Wolfman did in their heyday. A series of tropes were born during the slasher craze. Mass killers, horny teens getting picked off one by one, gruesome elaborate deaths, the final girl, etc. Not only did Halloween solidify these tropes for countless imitators, it was also the first horror film to be called Halloween, or, for that matter, to be set on Halloween. Another trope ripped from Halloween was having the slasher film take place during a holiday. On this month's episode, we will discuss 3 of those other holiday horror films from this period. We will discuss Mother's Day from 1980, My Bloody Valentine from 1981, and April Fool's Day from 1986. It's time to kick off the happy horror days on this month's episode of My Dad's Video Store. All right, now we were originally scheduled to be coming live from HorrorHound, the largest horror convention in the US, but there was a technical mix-up, and so we had to record at a separate date. Joining me are my partners in cinematic crime, Waylon Bacon and Gray Creasy. What's cool and spooky, my friends?
Hey, everything's super spooky today. We just had our huge Halloween party last night.
Nice.
So I'm a little bit bleary-eyed. Luckily, it's a podcast, so you can't see that. And hopefully you won't hear it so much in my voice.
We're podcasting with the ghost of a hangover Halloween party today. Yeah. Good times. What about you, Mr. Bacon? Haven't talked to you in a bit.
Yes, I've missed the last couple, but I'm here now, and similarly to Gray, also a little bleary. I was at a wedding last night, another spooky October wedding. I also just wrapped up getting my annual Frownland calendars printed, which is a webcomic I draw, and I think the calendar is actually more popular than the comic. But
exciting.
And I'm doing pre-production on a film, so it's crazy month for me. I'm not sleeping a lot.
Nice. Are you? What's the film that you're doing pre-prod on?
It is it's a horror movie. It's kind of like The Metamorphosis meets, I hate to be one of these people that compares movies to other things, but I don't want to talk about the plot and jinx it. So we'll say it's Cronenberg's The Fly meets The Metamorphosis as directed by Todd Solondz.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. Is this something you're doing? Is this something you're writing, directing, or is this something you're just involved with?
This is me. I'm writing and directing, and I'm doing the effects. Actually, my desk is a mess of prosthetics and things right now that I'm building. We're racing to get just the exteriors to take advantage of Portland fall weather, because it's sunny, there's fall leaves everywhere. It'll be perfect for this kind of a film. So we're going to just get all the exteriors right at the end of the month before the rain kicks in.
Nice. Well, I am, as always, excited to see a new Waylon Bacon film. So it has been a minute, my friend. So
yes,
glad you're getting back in the director's chair. Awesome. Well, fantastic. Well, we'll all keep us informed about that, Waylon, as we go along on the show. Well, Gray and I had an amazing time at HorrorHound. We partied with Tom Atkins and, half the cast of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and just met all kinds of cool and amazing filmmakers and made tons of great connections and saw a lot of cool horror films that are from really fresh creative forces. And, actually one of those films that we saw was by none other than our guest, Mr. PJ Starks. PJ, how goes it?
It goes. I'm here, and I'm not as cool and fun as you guys.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Because I was in bed by the time you guys were having, your Halloween parties. That's how lame but it was the same way with Horror Hound. You're partying with Tom Atkins. You're messaging me like, where are you at? I'm at Texas Roadhouse getting ready to like go back to the hotel to fall asleep.
I was like, where were you? I was like, it's like I got Tom Atkins on one hand, and then like I'm talking to like the screenwriter of The Craft at the other, and like I'm like, where is PJ in all this shenanigans? And yet, but you were tired. You were very tired. Well, that's because your film New Fear's Eve just is playing at so many film festivals. I'm sure you're exhausted, my friend. You're doing like back-to-back film festivals almost every weekend and stuff. Gray and I caught New Fear's Eve. We had an absolute blast with your film. It has some of the most creative and hilarious kills I've ever seen in a movie. We were just dying. We were dying throughout it. It was so much fun. I really highly encourage folks to check it out. So, PJ, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? Some of the films you've made and, some of the films you produced.
My name is PJ Starks. I'm the co-owner of Blood Moon Pictures. I co-produced with Eric Huskisson. He's my hetero life mate, if you will. We do a lot of these projects together. He was the other producer and co-director for New Fear's Eve, and he was at Horror Hound as well. But yeah, born and raised in Owensboro, Kentucky. Always wanted to be a visual storyteller. Eventually became that, and then I started Blood Moon Pictures with Eric in 2015 in December because a film I had done. I was pretty much the showrunner for that film. Eric was a really big part of making that movie. And then when it was done and it did far better than what we thought it was going to do, he was like, hey, we should start a company. Have you thought about that? Like, do you know what you're going to do, what the future is going to be? So that's what we did. And then we did that so we could do the sequel, which was Volumes of Blood Horror Stories. We attempted to raise money for a third, didn't really happen. We did raise some money. We made 13 Slays Till Christmas with that. And that was mainly because we had such a great time doing a Christmas segment in Horror Stories. And now here we are with New Fear's Eve. And then I've executive produced a ton of other projects from around the country, all over the place. It's all on IMDb. I won't bore you to death with, but like right now, The Boy from Below is one that I'm working on. We're currently in pre-production now on The Barn Part 3. I'm a producer on that. We'll be going to Pennsylvania beginning of November for about a week to work on the set. So yeah, a lot of stuff. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell. And then I'm asleep at 9:00 while you're schmoozing with celebrities.
Well, only at Horror Hound. I'm usually in bed by 9:00 too, because if my kid will let me go, I have a 4-year-old, so he's unpredictable. So, and he's the reason I need to go to bed at 9:00 if I'm lucky.
I miss that age. I've got a 20 and a 13-year-old.
Wow. Okay.
And they're both in that I hate you stage.
Of course.
I thought my 20-year-old would grow out of it, but no, turns out I suck as a father,
on.
so he continues to hate me. Yeah. And
wait till 25. Really 25. That once you get past 25,
we'll see.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being an artist. You're not appreciated till you're dead. I figure at my funeral they'll have some nice things to say about me.
Skeleton hand lifts up. Thank you, son. Awesome. Well, where can folks catch your latest film, New Fear's Eve? It's playing at a lot of different festivals. What kind of upcoming screenings do you have for that film?
Okay, so right now we have on October 19th, we're doing a second screening here in Owensboro. It's at the River Park Center in Cannon Hall. We're hoping to bring people in who didn't get a chance to go to the premiere back in June. So that's kind of a local screening. Beyond that, the weekend of October 25th, it's going to be screening at Horror at the Ohio, which the name of where that is at escapes me because I'm awesome. But the really great thing about that screening is, so Felissa Rose, who she's in the film, she does an amazing job in her role. She's been, Terrifier 2, Sleepaway Camp, most notably, and a whole bunch of other things. But yeah, she is a solid talent and she does a great job in the movie. So she's going to be at that screening, and then immediately following the movie, she's going to be doing a Q&A and talking about working on the production. Unfortunately, we are not able to be at that one because we're going to be at Smodcastle Film Festival that same weekend, which is Kevin Smith's film festival in New Jersey.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh man, I'm super excited. I'm a huge, huge Kevin Smith fan.
I could tell from the film. I could
Yeah.
tell from New Year's Eve
Yeah.
that you were a huge Kevin Smith fan.
Dick and fart jokes are my thing. If I get a chance to sneak one in there, I'm going to do it. And whether it's funny or not, it's really interesting when you sit in a theater with like 100 people and you're like, man, this joke's really going to land, and then it's real quiet.
Yeah.
I thought that was a lot funnier when I wrote it, but apparently, for some reason, most people don't think an abortion joke is funny.
Their loss.
Maybe in a few years we'll come back to laughing about that one. But maybe not the right time for an abortion joke. So.
I feel like I'm one of those individuals where it's like I think anything can be made fun of and it can be funny. As long as it's not coming from a place of malice. Like my mom died of cancer exactly 1 year ago today, and I make jokes about her being dead all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best ways to cope with life. So is to keep it light.
That is that in itself wasn't funny, but I just wanted to let you guys know my mom was dead.
I was like waiting for someone to start laughing before I started laughing.
Should I laugh or should I cry? I'm not really sure what's going on. Yeah, it was an open casket funeral, so I could put a laptop in the casket and show the trailer on loop of New Year's Eve. When the people start coming through, I might as well take the opportunity.
I know, right? Little promotional event.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah. Hey, does she have a business card in her hand? Like,
Unfortunately, she was buried with all my business cards, so I had to make it was a mess.
QR code on the casket.
Oh, that's actually a really good idea. But yeah, so we'll be there that weekend. The really cool thing is so they're doing a 30th anniversary screening of Clerks, and apparently, I guess the whole cast is going to be there. But the thing, like being a Kevin Smith fan, and I mean for a very long time, and the weird thing is, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, it's like anytime you go to a con, or if you're on a panel, you almost, or you're doing an interview, you get that like, what's the movie that made you want to make film? And usually if I'm doing a panel or an interview, it deals with horror films. And you get a lot of the cliche, like, well, it was John Carpenter's Halloween, or, usually it's the real like popular, well-known horror, The Shining, that sort of thing. Anytime it comes to me, I'm like, well, Clerks. Clerks is the movie that made me say, I already wanted to be a filmmaker, but that was the movie I watched where I thought, well, I might actually have a shot.
Could be a filmmaker.
Yeah, I can do this, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, look, hey, if that fat guy can do it, this fat guy can do it. But, well, hopefully if Kevin's watching it now, you're not fat anymore, so you look fantastic. But yeah, so that's the movie that really like made me go, okay, I'm really going to give this a serious go and try to make films. And now I've got a film that's going to be screening at his festival, and I put a post out recently where I said, I have a long and storied experience with almost meeting Kevin Smith over the past decade. I've had a bunch of different experiences where it's like I came this close to being able to like hang out with him one time. It didn't happen. I almost got Jason J. Mewes to call him on his cell phone, and that didn't happen. Apparently, I guess he was getting ready to call him, and then found out that he was like on his way to shoot Cop Out, which at the time he said he's headed to New York to shoot a movie with Bruce Willis, but he didn't say what it was, and it turned out to be Cop Out.
Oh, wow.
But the thing is, though, is I'm sitting here like, what is the thing that's going to get in the way of me going to New Jersey now to where I can't meet Kevin Smith? And hopefully he'll see the movie. I don't know if he's going to see it, but, I've got my fingers crossed. Very long-winded, ranty way of saying we have several screenings of the movie coming up.
And folks should definitely check it out if they get a chance, especially if you're in the New Jersey area. It sounds like that's going to be quite the time.
Oh, and then the first weekend of December, it's screening in Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
The New York City Horror Film Festival there on West 57th Street.
Oh,
amazing.
Yes.
I've never been to New York before, but we're going,
Awesome.
and I'm super excited.
Fantastic.
I'm told, don't look anybody in the eyes. If you're on the subway and someone starts getting stabbed, don't get involved.
That's the worst time to look anybody in the eyes, when someone's getting stabbed.
I've
Yeah.
basically just been told, like, don't talk to anybody, don't breathe on anybody. If somebody runs into you, just keep walking.
I found New York to be much friendlier than people made it out to be.
Yeah, it's not Taxi Driver New York anymore.
That's what I'm thinking, because when we went to the Chicago Horror Film Festival, I kind of had it in my mind that it was either going to be what you see in some of these other like Chicago crime movies, or there was going to be like giant Transformer battles happening in the street. It was going to be one of those. Neither of those, unfortunately, with the Transformer part, but everybody was super nice. I mean, we're right there in downtown. Didn't see any homeless people. Everything was really clean. The theater was right down, like in the same area, and we went and got food at like midnight. We walked 3 blocks to a Burger King, and we didn't get mugged. It was completely opposite of what A, I'd been told, and B, what I thought it might be like based off of, what you see on TV and in the movies. Go figure.
Well, it's kind of like Portland. Everyone thinks Portland is like Mad Max, and for me, I'm like, it's just a city that's got a homeless situation because it's just getting too fucking expensive. But
Same with LA.
yeah, same with anywhere.
All right. Well, why don't we get into the films? Let's dive into our first film this month, Mother's Day from 1980.
Somewhere in the woods of Deep Barren, a woman and her sons live in isolation. When they come out, it's for one reason only.
Now let's see what you brought, Mother.
Some say she spoiled her boys. Some say she drove them mad. No one who found out has lived to tell.
Darlings, you have made your mother very proud.
Charles Kaufman's Mother's Day.
My boy.
Jackie, Abby, and Trina have come to the wilderness for a weekend of fun. Little do they know that out there something lies watching, waiting. Someone's coming. They're getting closer. There's nowhere to run, no one to hear you scream. When you know how to celebrate, every day is Mother's Day. From the darkest corner of the imagination to the outermost reaches of insanity and terror comes a celebration of mayhem. Charles Kaufman's Mother's Day. No one can escape on Mother's Day because Mother's Day never ends.
Gray, can you synopsize Mother's Day for our listeners out there?
All right, Mother's Day. So, I was tempted to just use what my wife A.E. said after we watched it, which was, it's like Bugs Bunny made Last House on the Left, and then just leave it at that, and then we'll just get into it.
Pretty apt.
Yeah, pretty accurate. Bugs Bunny made Last House on the Left, or I Spit on Your Grave. But I'll get a little more into it. And content warning going forward for anybody if they want to skip this section. It is a rape revenge movie in the mold of those movies from the late 70s and early 80s. But it is a really bonkers version of one of those kind of movies. So it starts with a really crazy sort of hook opening in like a 70s sort of self-actualization sort of self-help group where these two kind of scary, sinister hippies hook up with this old lady, and like they're hitchhikers, and like she gives them a ride in her car, and the car breaks down, and you think they're going to end up killing her. But no, once the car breaks down, it's all been a trap for her two kids, Ike and Adley, her two boys, torture the hitchhikers in front of the old lady, their mother. And this makes the mother very proud of them. And she's like, oh, you've made mother so proud. So that's the hook opening. You're like, oh, okay. So this movie is actually about this mother whose sons torture and murder and rape people for her delight. So that sets up basically the idea of the movie. And then after that, we're introduced to our main characters, Trina, Abby, and Jackie, who are these three friends, college friends, who've been getting together every year since college to go on a camping trip. And they go on this camping trip this particular year, and in one of the most surprising gotcha moments I've ever seen, in the middle of some character development where they're talking about their past and having this really sweet moment, Ike and Adley, the crazy hillbillies, mom's kids, just kidnap them in the middle of the scene. And you're like, ah, what the fuck? And then drag them back to mom's house, to mother's house, where they are tied up to gymnasium equipment, and mom is like making her boys work out while also sexually assaulting and raping Jackie while making the other girls watch. And the scene is both horribly disturbing and graphic while also being weirdly, disgustingly humorous because mother is like directing them like she's a football coach. So, and the movie continues that way in this weird Looney Tunes meets rape revenge. So it's just, we'll get into it, but it is just a wild, crazy movie. And in the vein of a rape revenge movie, of course, the girls do escape and they do take their bloody revenge against Ike and Adley, and eventually against Mother as well, in a way that I won't spoil, because we'll talk about it later. It is probably the best kill in the whole movie, is how they dispatch Mother. Yes. And then we'll also get into Queenie, Mother's that whole side plot. Queenie. And then so that's Mother's Day, Queenie. Probably the most bonkers rape revenge movie that I've ever seen. And the fact that it is also a cartoonish statement on capitalism and like pop culture at the same time as being a very disturbing movie.
Yeah, it's truly something else. Well, great synopsis, Gray. I think you've kind of covered all the kind of bases with this film. PJ, was Mother's Day one that you had seen before, and what did you think of this film?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was one that I watched quite a while ago because I grew up with Troma films. So, and this was one of those Troma in their heyday movies. But no, I mean, I really enjoy the film. Yeah, I mean, it is very much a lot, sort of in the vein of like Last House on the Left, but I was never a big fan of that movie. I don't know if it was because if it was like just of how sadistic it was, you know. Whenever I like to have fun with the movies. I mean, there's times where I want to walk away and just feel grim, but you know, 9 times out of 10, if it's one of those ones where it just, like you'd said earlier, you feel like you have to take a shower afterwards. I'm like, I mean, there's some really good movies that are like that, but I tend to gravitate more towards ones that are like this. While they deal with grotesque subject matter, you're still in a weird, sort of bizarre, irreverent way having fun with it. Honestly, I think this is one of Troma's better movies. Agreed. And because they do have a lot of movies in varied degrees of quality, but I think this is one of those ones where it's like all the characters are interesting and the subject matter is compelling, and then the way the movie plays out, it's one of those ones where it's like you just got to keep watching to see what happens next.
Yeah, totally. It's a completely wild ride and very unexpected from how the movie starts and where it goes to. Waylon, what about you? Had you seen Mother's Day before? I know you're a longtime Troma fan. What did you think of this film?
I'm not a fan, actually. I was like, wow, fuck you, Brad. I can't believe I'm watching this movie. Where's my list? I never like those rape revenge ones because they always make me queasy because it's really just an exploitative excuse to show some skin, and then but then they try to like repackage it as, but female power because they're getting revenge at the end. But the whole thing always makes me feel really uneasy because it feels kind of half-assed. Like I totally walked out of Last House on the Left and then came back just to see them kill those fucking guys. This one at least had the crazy mom, and it had the humor, but the humor didn't alleviate anything for me. It made it like worse. Like you catch someone doing something horrible to you, and then they make a joke while they're doing it, and they laugh. And I'm like, this is actually worse. I wish you were just being monstrous. I couldn't figure out what they were trying to say. Like there was some kind of thing they were talking about with toxic male behavior, and Jackie had the shitty boyfriend back home, and then they talked about the asshole boyfriend that they humiliated back in college. But it never coalesced to me. Like it was, I did enjoy watching them all get killed. In fact, the best kill was what's the Weasley brothers' name? Not the one with the lazy eye, but the other one. When she claw hammers him in the dick, I started clapping in my chair. That was excellent. And the mom's death is good. Death by Drano. Yes. That was a good time. But yeah, for the most part, I didn't dig Mother's Day. But it's interesting because it's a different movie than I thought too. That is all of these films actually are movies that I saw as a kid on the racks at the video store and never rented because I was never a big slasher guy. So I had an idea of what all these movies were in my head, and I was actually wrong about every single one of them.
I mean, it's interesting. This one I'd kind of forgotten about. I remembered seeing it when, from my dad's video store, but I didn't really remember much about it. It wasn't one like April Fool's Day or My Bloody Valentine, which we'll get into, where I'd seen quite a few times, actually, back in the day. And it was almost like a fresh watch for me. I'm kind of on one side with you about the film, like the rape really bothers me in the film, in the context of the film, but it didn't ruin the film for me. Right from the opening, the switcheroo they do, this cold open they have where the mother is at this like kind of convention. You think one thing's happening and it's these two kind of hippie teenagers out and you think that they're getting ready to strike at her and take her money and all this stuff and take the car and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out, nope, it's all a trap that she has set for them with her two crazy bumpkin sons out in the middle of nowhere. That was great. I mean, like right off the bat, they're pulling the rug out from under us. And there was just so many, like the LA party. The setup for this is great. You've got these three girls, but like they're given backstories, and you really do find out a lot about these three characters, which I thought was really refreshing and stuff, that this actually had some genuine character development, and it does have some honestly funny moments. The LA party scene, I could not help but think about Boogie Nights, and there's just so many good lines in it. He's like, the three things you need to know about the film business, kid: distribution, distribution, distribution. And like the old guy going on and on about Stanley Kubrick to everyone that'll bother to listen to him. And her boyfriend is the biggest piece of garbage you've ever met. And like, I love that they took the time to do kind of like a revenge prank on him after the fact. And of course his name was Brad because every fucking 80s D-bag was named fucking Brad, and I've had to fucking carry this for the rest of my fucking life. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I wish you guys had seen Bachelor Party or something before you had me. But anyway, also, I found out the most fascinating, strangest trivia about this movie, where they shot this in New Jersey, the same lake, at the exact same time, across on the other side of this lake, they were filming the first Friday the 13th. So this is actually, Camp Crystal Lake is across the way. They were filming it at the exact same time they were filming Mother's Day and stuff. It's like a blend of, Psycho and then also Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of like smooshed together, but in kind of a comedic, I spit on your grave kind of way. I mean, this was truly something. I enjoyed a lot of the comedy. There was some stuff like the scene where they're like brushing their teeth with the beer and they're using like Lysol for deodorant. I just was like, this is fucking amazing. Like where they're having breakfast together.
Ugh. Finish your cheese whiz. It's good for your liver.
And I mean, just shit like that, just all throughout. I was like cracking up. And yet at the same time, it's this completely disturbing rape revenge film, on the other hand. It is a bit of a mixed, but I actually liked the movie ultimately. I thought it was actually really effective. Also, Queenie, let's get into Queenie, because wow, what a bizarro twist. Is Queenie a fucking werewolf? Like,
or a Sasquatch. I was like, what? It had like this Bigfoot ending. I'm like, what the hell happened to Queenie, who's supposed to be her long lost sister?
yeah, but she is like covered in hair and she has fangs and she just jumps out at the end. I love that she's just talking about it and you're like, oh, you're this crazy old woman, you're out of your mind. And then here comes fucking Queenie at the very end. And it was like, it froze, the frame froze, and I was like, it's like a, the 70s buddy cop movie, and I was dying. It was so good.
I think I jumped on like she's a Bigfoot because it was like this movie was 1980, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was like Creature from Black Lake, Boggy Creek. This was like the time of the Bigfoot movie. I think that's why my brain went to like this fucking Sasquatch comes jumping out of it. I don't know. This movie threw everything for just being such a simple movie. It's like, let's just put everything into this movie. I'm like, what the hell is going on from minute to minute in this?
Yeah.
It's a crazy film. I thought it was all like it's put together in such a clunky way though. Like I came down hard on this one, but like every shot, I'm like, this is such a bad shot, and like I wish it's so unsubtle. And like with the Queenie thing, I thought, oh, I know what this is going to be. Like the mother says Queenie is pure evil, her evil deformed sister, and I was convinced that Queenie would show up and help these girls kill the family. But no, Queenie just shows up at the end as like a weird, poorly executed jump scare. So
exactly. I kept waiting for Waylon. I kept waiting for Queenie to show up and be part of the vengeance. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was the most bizarre choice ever, that she's just like this thing that pops. She's like the period at the end of the film, and I don't know. I thought it was hilarious, actually. I mean, I was cracking the fuck up when Queenie jumped out. I was like, I literally thought this movie could not get any more ridiculous, and then this happened on top of it. Cherry on a fine shit Sunday. But yeah.
Perfect.
Which, there's so many good things in this film. The Burger Bits dog food ad. Holy shit, that's amazing. That is amazing.
I was very fond of the Burger Bits dog food ad.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah.
I love that they just stopped to show it.
They're like, look, we shot this. We have to show it.
It's so good. It's at a perfect moment. It's like really tense, and then it just cuts to that, and you're just like, what the fuck? It's so good. It's like, you can tell this has the real seeds of Troma. This is such an early film for them and stuff. They were originally a distribution company. I don't know if this is the first film they produced or not, but
yeah, I don't think it is. I think like Squeeze Play and the first Turn On and stuff like that might have predated it.
Gotcha.
But I always think it's really funny. I wonder, because it's Charles Kaufman, Lloyd's brother, who made this, and I wonder how many times Charlie Kaufman, adaptation, and Eternal Sunshine. I wonder how many times Charlie Kaufman people have been like, you made that reprehensible Mother's Day. He's like, no, dude, I had nothing to do with Mother's Day.
I wish I'd known about this. When I worked at Vroman's bookstore in Pasadena, Charlie Kaufman was one of the regulars, actually, so we would see him browsing the aisles.
Oh my God. Oh my!
At least every couple of months. Yeah,
I would lose it. I would lose my shit. I would just freeze up. Like, all right, Mr. Kaufman. Yeah, I'm such a fan. Jesus Christ. Yeah, we got to talk about Mom's death though, because she dies via a blow up doll boob.
Yeah, it's just boobs. It's a set of inflatable breasts.
Yeah.
And
smothering
they're clear
her
too, so
they're clear, which makes it so much more disturbing,
so bizarre.
Hilarious.
All of it's so fucking weird.
And who is it that kills her? Was it Trina or Abby?
It's Abby, because Trina is sort of who I called like the. She has strong Bergman movie vibes, like this ice queen with like blue eyes. When she goes on her first vengeance, because she's the first one to really go after. She just has this like.
Yeah, she's like kind of Liv Ullmann-like.
Just this strong, stoic iciness when she... Yeah. But then Abby comes on strong at the end and ends up being the one that kills Mother with the blow-up boobs.
With that great, weird speech, I'll take care of you. I'll be your daughter now. And I was so confused. I went, because it's such a crazy movie. I said, well, wait, is it like this is her long-lost mom for a minute? I thought they were throwing a last-minute plot twist at us.
Well, she gets to, because in the beginning of the movie, which I thought was really, when you see the little flashes of our three heroines at the beginning, you see Abby, and she's getting constant phone messages from her mom. She's getting constant, nagging phone call, recorded messages from her mom, being like, nah, 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 from her nagging mom.
Right.
So she's killing her own mom by killing Mother at the end of the movie.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh,
I was
cute,
one. I was
okay.
like Waylon. I was kind of like, wow, that almost seemed like kind of out of the blue, that speech. But now that you mentioned that, yeah, they did kind of set that up and stuff. As
They
part
did
of her
technically
character.
set it up.
Yeah.
Although I wish we had seen the blow up, because I don't think we did. I think I might have even gone back to check and make sure. I wish we had seen the clear blow up boobs before in the house, so it was like Chekhov's blow up boobs. Because I wish we'd seen them before.
Well, there was a lot of things like that. Like when she kills Adley with the Drano, because Adley is attacking Abby, and then Trina runs away, opens a door, and grabs Drano. But it's such a weird, like, what was your plan? Did you somehow know there was a can of Drano there? Like, why did you... It was really, they just thought it would be cool to kill somebody by pouring Drano in their mouth. Didn't really care how they got from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So
We just need to have this urban legend death in there. Yeah.
it did kind of... I wonder if it's the first trauma film, though, where someone starts vomiting up foamy shit. Because normally...
Right, because that's it. When they discovered that you put the Alka-Seltzer in somebody's mouth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Frothy times over at the House of Trauma.
Because it's in, like, every other trauma movie. Like,
Yeah.
after that.
For sure. Roger Ebert, I found out, hated this. He gave it
I read
0
his
stars. Yeah, he hated this movie more than anything, and but he often did. He hates slasher films. He was, he wasn't so into. He didn't have any schlock in him. I'll tell you. All right. Any other thoughts about Mother's Day?
I actually, the very opening of the movie, after the hook, the great hook opening, I really liked the slideshow. Like, they did like the slideshow thing with like their voices over it of them in college. I thought that was a strangely effective bit of character development. I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. Like, I wish I'd thought of that myself. That was surprisingly good for a low budget bit of character development.
Yeah, it was a really good device to help set them up. Although it was so strange where they all meet to get picked up at that's like. It was almost like a train yard in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey.
Yes.
I know. Yeah. Why was that where they met?
I gotta say this about the movie. It has like the nastiest art direction I think I've ever seen in a film. I mean, it's just oozing all over the walls and the film grain and everything. It is just sickly looking. I guess they shot it in like a house that had been abandoned for like 20 years and supposedly someone had been murdered in it beforehand.
I can
and
see that.
And it was all kind of pre-boarded up and stuff, and they just kind of went in there and just art directed it and stuff. But man, it is repulsive looking for sure.
I would rather be at the Chainsaw Massacre house, actually. At least
yeah.
I might get some good eats or something like that. Yeah. Head cheese. Chili.
Good chili. Man, I still wish for my dad. One of the best things my dad ever gave me as like the promo items was he gave me a pouch. It was Texas Chainsaw chili powder.
Oh, that's cool.
And it had like Leatherface on it, and it said Texas Chainsaw Chili. It came out with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. If I could ever find that thing, man, I'll have to dig through my parents' attic sometime. But
it's definitely a thing. Like it is its own thing, and it's like nothing I've ever seen before. And some people are gonna fucking hate it, but I think it's also. It's it's a weird time capsule, but and especially nowadays, because there have been multiple sort of feminist rape revenge movies, one of which played at Horror Hound that we didn't get to see. It's called Bystanders.
Yeah,
and it's made by 2 women, one of which is a rape survivor. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. It comes out next year. They got distribution, so look for that. And then of course Coralie Fargeau's Revenge, who's the woman who made The Substance. I'm interested in seeing both Revenge and Bystanders now that we've seen Mother's Day to like see the feminist angle on the rape revenge film.
Yeah, totally.
I feel it'll be definitely less. It'll make you less queasy. It will, but in a different way for sure.
Have you seen Revenge, Waylon?
No, not yet actually, but I would check that out. It's like my least favorite horror subgenre, but I think if anyone else is going to ever do it, it should actually be women. If anyone's going to make those kind of movies,
agreed.
Sure, so.
Going forward, I think it should only be women at this point.
I agree. I agree. We've heard enough from dudes on that subject. So, but yeah, Revenge is fantastic, and we missed Bystanders. It's actually playing at Nightmares Film Festival right after my film this coming Sunday and stuff for the folks in the Columbus, Ohio area. But please check it out. It won it swept Horror Hound. So
it did.
It won multiple awards, including Best Film of the Fest. So definitely check that out.
But of course, New Fear's Evil got audience choice.
That's true. New Fear's Eve did get audience choice and stuff. So yeah, it actually, it saved you from a bad joke because I was sitting right next to you. I was about to go. I was like, Shutout Island is right next to No Nom Island too. So because I didn't get any nominations, but
I know you were ready to make that joke.
I was just waiting to pounce. Waiting to pounce because you didn't win anything, and then you got that, and I was like, well, fuck, there goes that fucking joke. So.
Well, ironically, I'd forgotten about audience choice. So as you were sitting there thinking of that joke, I was thinking about the best course of suicide. Thankfully, audience choice came at us, and I was like, oh yeah, there's that too.
That's like, I've been trying to work out how to do this as a Frownland comic, which is my theory that not everyone is suicidal, but everybody knows how they would do it. So everyone's at least thought about it hard enough to go, gun, or bridge, or, everyone has that escape hatch they've plotted out. Yeah.
With every movie, I die a little bit more on the inside, so.
We all do.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. All my gray hair showed up on one shoot, actually.
Yep. That's right. You've mentioned that before. Which one was it?
It was Help Wanted, wasn't it?
It was Help Wanted. Oh, my God.
Which is, that was the first film we saw of yours. That was the film played right after Rite of Passage at Comic-Con. Yeah. That's how we got to know each other.
I gotta get chummy with those dudes. It's true. Rite of Passage is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
It's very cool. Gray's hysterical in it. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, thanks. Well, same to Help Wanted as well, as a fantastic movie and stuff. We were just like, who is this guy? This is so funny and so smart and so cool. So yeah, we loved that. It had so much to say about the horribleness of minimum wage jobs. It was great.
Subject I know so well.
It was great. It was fantastic. Folks, Mother's Day is available to stream on Tubi, Plex, Pluto, and Shudder. Vinegar Syndrome also has an amazing Blu-ray available out there as well. All right, well, from demented backwood murderers to a mining town terrorized by a Valentine's Day killer, it's time for My Bloody Valentine.
It's a bad time, this time of year. How many times is he gonna tell this story?
Oh, let him tell it. I love fairy tales.
This ain't no fairy tale, little girl. If you don't take it seriously, you're a fool!
The first Valentine's dance in 20 years has to be something special.
Look, Landers, you gotta get a lot of exercise if you're gonna grapple with Gretchen.
Oh, yeah? Well, I got a Valentine for her that she's never gonna forget. Right to the heart, huh?
In this town on Valentine's Day, everybody loses their heart.
Roses are red, violets are blue. One is dead, and so are you.
It can't be happening again.
No!
It can't be happening again.
What's going on over in Valentine Bluffs? It looks like Harry Warden's back in town.
It happened once. It happened twice. Cancel the dance or it'll happen thrice.
In the town of Valentine Bluffs, there are many ways to die. Take your pick. My Bloody Valentine.
PJ, Can you please synopsize My Bloody Valentine for our listeners?
I will, and it will be nowhere near as good as what Gray did with Mother's Day. Like I feel so unprepared for this now that I listened to everything you talked about.
This is good because I'm usually the unprepared one, so thank you.
I mean, as I'm sitting here listening to you guys sit there and talk about Mother's Day, I was like, hey, damn, I probably should have watched the movie. And B, I'm like, I thought I was a movie nerd. Like, I don't even come close to you guys, like, with all your trivia and things. So I feel like an outlier here. But all right, yeah, My Bloody Valentine is about a group of blue collar miners in this kind of small town called Valentine Bluff. And it's the first time, or it's leading up to the days of the first actual Valentine's Day dance that they're going to be doing since a tragedy that happened 19 years previous, where there was a mining collapse, and when they finally got the last surviving miner, it was Harry Warden, and he had cannibalized his fellow miners to stay alive, and of course was institutionalized. So now they stopped doing the Valentine's Day dance. I guess there's a stigma that comes with cannibals and February 14th. So they finally are like, hey, we're going to do this dance. And around the same time, this is where we meet a lot of our characters. And the two main being Tom and Axel. And of course, they're butting heads because Tom had gone off to try to make his way somewhere else. He kind of disappeared, and a girl that he was in love with and was in a relationship at the time, she's now with Axel. So of course there's all that tension building between them. And then not long after Tom returning back to the town, suddenly people begin to get brutally murdered one by one, and everybody's certain that Harry Warden is the culprit. And of course you have this subplot with the sheriff and the mayor trying to figure out, where is Harry Warden? The institution had lost track of him, because that happens all the time. So of course, in horror movie fashion, once the murders begin, the mayor says, we're going to close all this down. And then of course the main characters say, no, we're going to have our own party. And they decide to have a party at the mine of all places. And then a bunch of them get trapped underground. And again, they're just being slaughtered one by one. And of course, we ultimately come to find out that it's not Harry Warden, that Harry Warden is dead, and that it's Axel, because Axel is the child of one of the foremen who was murdered originally by Harry Warden when he got revenge because they let the miners down underground, and he saw his father murdered in front of him. And then later on, and then of course, he went on to live a pretty normal, healthy existence a majority of his life until they decide to bring the dance back, and then I'm assuming that's what sets him off.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Axel meets his demise, or does he?
Or does he?
And then, or does he? Which there was supposed to be a sequel, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. Yeah. And yeah, that's the gist of the film, My Bloody Valentine, which is one of, I would say it's definitely gained more popularity in the last decade or so. Oh, yeah. But for a very long time before that was one of the more obscure horror films, kind of in the realm of like Madman or The Prowler. Not necessarily lost or forgotten at time, but not one that you heard talk a lot by the more mainstream slasher fans. It's more of like an avid slasher fan kind of movie.
Yeah, probably more known just for being used as a band name,
Yeah. Pretty awesome band name. Yeah.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
That was actually a great synopsis for someone who was so underprepared, as you said.
No, it was fantastic. You've obviously seen it a lot.
You've seen it. You know this film like the back of your hand. So, yeah, well done.
Several movies I watch over and over and over again that are like comfort food to me. So it's like movies I pop in to relax. Ironically, The Prowler is one of them.
Love that one.
Hell Night is another one. I watched
Linda Blair.
I watched Hell Night last night, actually, when I should have been watching Mother's Day. And yeah, My Bloody Valentine is one that I've seen over and over and over again. So it's one of my all-time favorites.
Nice.
Which is why I was like really wanted to talk about it, since a lot of people don't talk about this film.
Well, Gray, what were some of your thoughts on My Bloody Valentine? I know you had seen this one before, but what do you think of the film?
I love it. And I watch it every Valentine's Day because,
Aw.
Valentine's Day is kind of a stupid holiday. So,
It is.
we watch My Bloody Valentine. And actually, I didn't wear my shirt. I brought my shirt to Horror Hound when we were going to record it then so I could wear it that day. But then I forgot to wear it today. So anyway, yeah, it's great. I pretty much love everything about My Bloody Valentine. The structure's great. The feel of it. There's mine shaft sex. There's Harry Warden, the character, even though it's not actually Harry Warden, just having a minor slasher killer. Just the outfit, the gas mask, the pickaxe is just so iconic.
Yeah, totally.
And, it wouldn't really fly today because coal mining isn't really a thing anymore. It's like you can't really bring Harry Warden back as I know they did the 3D one, which is not very good, but it's pretty bad. But I wish you could bring Harry Warden back and this whole mythos back as a character, but it just wouldn't. Coal mining, I don't know. But I love
he could go kill electric cars. You have him running around to destroy clean energy.
You have
I'd
a
watch
point.
that movie. I think that would be funny.
He's like a
Oh my
vengeful
God.
Republican,
Oh my
Yeah.
God, Waylon, get your pen out and put it to paper, sir.
We gotta kill all these lithium plants before I ruin combustible engines.
Get Canada on the phone.
Yeah. But it's great. You've got lovable Canadian goofballs. I love the whole cast. Even the ones that aren't developed, everybody's likable. That even the smaller characters, and it's a small little detail, but Mabel, there's this tiny little detail, just the fact that she's sweet on the chief, and she's super excited for the Valentine's Day dance, just these little things, even though we don't see much of Mabel, just these tiny little details are enough to make her death inside, the dryer that much more horrible. You're like, no, don't kill Mabel in that awful way. And the kills are really good. It is really good, the cat and mouse about Harry Warden. The first time you see it, you really don't know if Harry Warden is real and who the killer is. There's that great moment where Patty and Sarah are climbing up the ladder, and for just a fraction of a second, you see Axel grin like an absolute lunatic. But it's only for a fraction of a second, and it took me maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe 3 or 4 times watching the movie to where I caught that. And that's the only little telegraph moment where it's like, oh shit, it's him. Yeah, it's just, this movie is full of such great little moments and great characters, and the kills are good, the scares are good. I fucking love this movie.
Nice. Awesome. PJ, any other thoughts on My Bloody Valentine?
No, I mean, I second everything Gray just said. I mean, I think to me, what makes it one of the more unique slasher films is that at that time, all the slasher movies that were coming out were, either college students or teenagers or camp counselors. They were all kind of the same tropes of individuals. This is the first time that you got a movie where it wasn't just these people you expect. It's a group of just regular, blue collar workers, just average people that are living their life and get kind of stuck in this horrible situation. And even then, to take it a step further, the movie is almost a drama trapped in a horror film because it's about this guy who leaves to try to make something of himself. It goes horribly wrong, so he's forced to tuck his tail and come home and get his old job back. And now the girl that he's madly in love with is with what I'm assuming used to be his best friend, but now they're having that falling out because of her. And there's all that. And like you said, all the characters are really likable. And then of course, surrounding all that, you got this masked killer who's horribly murdering everybody. And it's definitely one of the more well done whodunits, I feel. Now, funny enough, the remake, I hated when it first came out, but it has grown on me over time. It is nowhere near as good as the original. I feel like the kills could have been a lot better, but they were trapped by having to do the whole 3D thing. So I think a lot of the kills in the new one lost their effectiveness due to having to do the whole CG 3D gags.
Yeah.
But it still has a lot of its own merits, I feel like. It's not as bad as what I originally remembered it, once I watched it later on, but the original to me is a classic.
Even though I'm still not big on the remake, Tom Atkins' jaw flying at you in 3D is still pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. I'll see it just because it has Tom Atkins.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's great in anything he does. So
for sure.
But yeah, I do a lot of nuance and Easter eggs when I make my movies. I'm sure you guys, when you saw New Year's Eve, you caught my Bloody Valentine Easter eggs in there because those overt ones. But the one that's not is in New Year's Eve. There's a bar scene. And the bartender, her name in the movie is Happy. Her character's named after the bartender from My Bloody Valentine, which you wouldn't know unless you sat through the credits because her name is never mentioned in the actual movie.
That's awesome.
Waylon, what did you think of My Bloody Valentine? Was this one that you'd seen? I know you kind of avoided the slasher films back in the day, but what did you think?
I liked it. I had not seen it. I remember I became aware of this when the remake came out. Which I missed. I think I saw Piranha 3D instead. Don't regret it. But no, I thought Bloody Valentine was cool. It's kind of a slow burn, which I dug. It played a lot more like a mystery. I thought it was well acted. I loved the Mabel, obviously. So sad. I was bummed to see her go. I loved the bartender who kept warning everyone, "Don't throw the party, you're fools." I loved the twist where the Mayor Hanniger, who I thought was going to be, like the Jaws mayor, was actually surprisingly moral dude. And was like, all right, we have to stop what we're doing. And I liked the twist at the end, where they reveal who the killer was. I thought the whole thing was solid. And the kills were supremely cool. I was particularly fond of poor Sylvia who gets impaled on a shower head.
Yes.
That was
my favorite.
A gnarly death. And of course, there's poor Hollis who gets nail gunned in the head. But he doesn't kill him. He's like, "Did you just nail gun me?"
Yeah, and then another one,
dude. It takes him a while to go. And great setting, great set pieces. It's a cool movie, and I like that it's a Canadian film for a country that's supposed to be really polite. They've given us some fucked up stuff like Cronenberg and My Bloody Valentine and The Kids in the Hall. So
and leave it to the Canadians to take the worn out slasher, from the Americans and do something cool and new with it, and weird, something weird with it. And you said Hollis, as much as I liked the whole cast, like I said, in a general sense, I would have been okay with the entire cast getting killed if Hollis could have lived. Because Hollis is the most righteous dude on earth.
Yeah.
He's like so cool. He treats the girls really well. He's just so great. And I'm like, no, he did not, man, not Hollis.
They should remake it and then make the main characters Hollis and Mabel.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. And the bartender's the killer at the end.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite characters as well.
Oh, he's excellent. And his death is great. You know it's coming, but it's still good.
Because he has to go back. He can't stop checking. I think I mentioned that to Brad. He can't stop checking his funny little...
Yeah.
That's him, right? He can't stop checking his funny little scare that he made, that his Harry Warden that pops out of the closet over and over. And you're like, don't check it again. It's going to be the real Harry Warden, and you're going to die. But he has to go back. He's so proud. He has to check it one last time.
And then he gets it. Yep. It's so good.
He gets the pickaxe.
Yeah.
And I so related to, we used to do Halloween at my house when I was a kid, and my dad always would have a coffin set up on the porch with a series of pulleys and bungee cords. When you opened the door, the coffin door would open, and this thing would lunge out, and he had like lights inside of its eyes and shit. It was terrifying. And I never got tired of opening the door and watching this thing lunge out. Just like the bartender every day after school, I'd be like, one more time. That was great.
You related to that kill then. You're like, yeah, I'd do that. That'd be me.
That's how Waylon's going to go.
That's right. Yeah,
that's how I'm going to go.
That'll be how Amy finally puts you down. So, tricks you with a Halloween gag.
She killed me with a Swiffer, probably.
Yeah.
Yes. One of us is the clean one in this house, and it's not me.
Awesome. There's so much I liked about this film. As you guys all said, it is such a blue-collar horror movie. It's crazy how it captures a really small town being consumed by a killer. You've seen this in kind of other films. I think of this recently with the movie Thanksgiving, the Eli Roth film. I swear there's a lot of that he took from this film and kind of building the world of that film as well. But yeah, it's really effective. And as you guys said, this movie is so Canadian. It smells of maple syrup and Moosehead beer, like throughout every frame of this thing. Oh my God. The freaking bartenders, that scene where like the little knife dance is like intercutting and he's going, beware the 14th and stuff. I was just like, this is so awesome. And when they do the flashback sequence and it's all like these super like fisheye angles, like telling this backstory of Harry and the mine shaft. That is so well done. That is
one of the coolest around the campfire flashback stories.
Oh, it's so effective. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that done better and stuff. They took, once again, the Canadians, they took this slasher cliche, but they gave it a new spin, and it seems really fresh. I love all the different Valentine notes and stuff, like, you know, how they rhyme, and like, you know, you see a severed heart or whatever inside. It's so good. I did not see the twist coming, you know, because I hadn't seen this in a really long time. I'd seen it when I was a kid a couple of times. I'd totally forgotten the twist of this film. And so the whole time I'm watching it almost with fresh eyes going, oh, okay, who is this? Is this Harry, etc.? Did not see the twist coming for a mile. And so when it happened, I was just like, what the hell? You know, it was like a flashback, a kid, you know, watching his dad die and stuff, because they'd shown that in that bartender flashback and stuff. So good. I do have some questions though. Who the hell parties in a mine? Like the place, like you want to work in as little as possible.
That's a good point.
Because of exposure to like all the toxic fumes and stuff. Hey, let's go drink a bunch of beer down there. Also, there seems to be a killer running around. Nice dark place that's hard to escape from. But also Sarah, the love interest, you know, you've got this kind of love triangle happening. She's not really like, you don't really know what ground, you know, you're standing on with her. She seems to be playing both guys throughout the film, which is pretty shitty of her, I thought. I love that they are finally like teaming up, Axel and him, when they're going down into the mine. Of course, it's all a ruse. They're going to be fighting on a mine car. You know, Indiana Jones, or I guess Ontario Jones, because it's fucking Canada. There's two versions of this film. It's interesting. The one that I saw in my dad's video store, I remember being way less bloody than the one I watched recently, because I guess the MPAA shredded this movie. They cut out almost all the kills, were hardly graphic at all, which really sucks because the kills are amazing.
Yeah,
they're good, man.
It was still effective though. I still loved the film, and I really loved it, I think, because of the unusual setting, and I love the mine shaft killer. His POVs is like Darth Vader coming at you. It is like the heaviest breathing you've ever heard in the
walking
slasher
along
POV
and smashing the lights out with the pickaxe.
Yes.
And
yeah. So good. I don't know if it's just me, but like the very end where he's basically cuts off his own arm to get out, Axel does. He kind of sounds like Crispin Glover going down into the mine. Like I don't know, his voice just sounded a lot like Crispin Glover.
Oh, in that last shot.
Yes, in that last shot. Yes,
away.
yeah, totally. It sounded.
Which it is. Yeah, he does a little bit, and that's like one of the last shot of that movie. That shot is one of the best ending shots in any fucking horror movie.
It's so good.
Creepy.
I was impressed.
And then it goes into one of the best, most amazing original songs, slasher movie or no, in any movie. The Ballad of Harry Warden is so freaking good.
It's really good.
It sounds like Harry Chapin. It's it's so good.
I mean, it's kind of like The Deer Hunter meets Halloween in a way. I mean, it has the blue collar kind of feel to it. I gotta say though, man, like the David Crosby looking guy, you know, that mustache is
Hollis?
truly phenomenal.
David
Hollis, I mean, I was like, after he got
Crosby.
killed with the nail gun, I was like, well, Stills, Nash, and Young are on their own. So just like, also there is death by hot dog water in this movie, which needs to be mentioned. I think that's an important thing to mention. I don't know of another film that has death by hot dog water, but there should be. There should be more.
I think
PJ, you know,
the PJ,
about to go to New
PJ,
York,
you know,
so
another
good thing to keep in mind.
I know.
New Fear's Eve Part 2.
That's right. Death by hot dog water. I don't know. I love this. I think it's such an effective slasher film. It's also kind of unique for the early 80s slashers because of its Canadianness. And yeah, but it has a lot of great stylistic touches to it and stuff. So yeah, super impressed with it all the way through. Great rewatch. Loved it. Any other thoughts on My Bloody Valentine?
I was going to say one of the things that I really like about the movie is that it's between them trying their best to do American accents and still breaking, and it's a boot.
Yeah,
you know,
I heard of the
Moose, the Moosehead beer is a dead giveaway. But what I love about the movie is, in their own way, and George Mihalka actually talks about it, where the most effective way they tried to make the movie seem like it took place in America was every opportunity that they would get, they would take this little American flag and they would place it somewhere in a scene. If you watch like a lot of the police officer scenes or the sheriff's department and several other places, there's this American flag that's just kind of placed somewhere in the scene. And I ended up doing that actually in New Fear's Eve. When we were filming in the offices, I was in somebody else's office and somebody actually had a little American flag. So I immediately grabbed it and went and I put it in a scene just so it could be there in this like little pencil holder. But if you watch the movie, they do that quite a bit. There's a little American flag placed here and there throughout the movie. When they made it, they knew they were going to try to market it to the United States. And they said that was one of the best ways to make it seem like it was taking place in this little American town was by putting American flags places.
That's all you need.
So.
Awesome. Any other parting thoughts?
I think there's a sign, but somebody also says they don't follow the rules. But like at the party, there's like no women in the mine.
Yeah.
And I actually said, I was like, maybe this is one instance where sexism would be okay.
You'd be like, yeah,
maybe let the women not get killed by Harry. Yeah.
Also, I know Axel was obviously a serial killer, but it just occurred to me he was totally cheating on Sarah at the beginning of the film. So also a bad boyfriend.
Yep.
Outside of killing all of her friends, he's also unfaithful.
Yeah, what's that a boot?
You're right. I've never even thought about that.
Not cool, Axel.
Not cool. Many things are not cool from Axel in this, but, that's the movie.
I mean, it's bad enough he's a serial killer, but an adulterer?
Right? What? Motherfucker.
Oh, God damn, Axel. I liked you until I found out about the adultery.
I mean, the killing was fine.
Right.
Morbid Valentine's Day cards?
Yeah. Your rhyme is on point, sir.
But you have to admit, he's incredibly talented. Those cards he put together were well done.
They were. Yeah, he used to work for Hallmark, so.
Didn't Robert Crumb also work for Hallmark?
Oh my God.
We see how that turned out.
Wow,
Yeah.
I would love to find those Hallmark cards. So.
If you haven't yet, he did the entire book of Genesis, and it just plays like a Zap comic, and he didn't even change anything. I read an interview that said, did you make anything more twisted and sexualized or violent so it fit within your framework? And he was like, no, I just every day I'd read a page of the book of Genesis, I'd draw it.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Awesome. Well, from a pick-wielding Valentine slasher to a series of pranks that have gone too far, it's time for April Fool's Day from 1986.
Paramount Pictures cordially invites you for a weekend getaway at the party to end all parties.
This is the craziest party that could ever be. Don't turn on the lights, because I don't want to see.
April Fool.
Welcome to my home and lifestyles of the rich and undeserving. Wrong.
Cheers.
Join 8 privileged guests who are just dying to have fun.
Wow, what is this, the bridal suite? You like it?
The ladies.
I'll find a use for it.
the gentleman,
We did on the first date.
the young,
Well, basically, I possess an essential lack of seriousness.
and the restless.
You are such a jerk.
Everyone is having such a good time. It's scary.
Is something wrong?
You're dead. Radio is blasting. Someone's knocking at the door. I'm looking at my girl. She passed out the door. Nikki! I see someone in there I've never seen before. Don't know what it is. I don't want to see it.
April Fool's Day. Get ready to party till you drop.
Waylon, can you synopsize April Fool's Day for our listeners out there?
You bet. So April Fool's Day, kind of like, I would describe it as Clue as a slasher film. At the beginning of April Fool's Day, we meet, there's a group of kids. They're all on spring break. It's April Fool's Day. They're all much more excited about April Fool's Day than any group of 20-somethings have ever been in the history of the holiday. They get on a boat and they're going to go to their friend Muffy's house. Muffy lives on this spooky island, which I don't think it's supposed to be, but it's actually in British Columbia. Anyways, so they're doing April Fool's Day pranks on the boat. And what kind of sets off the tone of the film is two guys, they're playing pranks on the boat and they're basically throwing a switchblade back and forth. This goes wrong and one guy gets stabbed in the stomach, falls off the boat. Oh my God, they have to run and jump off the boat to like save him. And then it turns out it was all a gag. It's a fake knife. Ha ha ha. And then an actual horrible thing happens on the boat where one of the deckhands actually gets crushed trying to tether the boat to the dock. So when they get to the island and they get to Muffy's house, this is kind of what keeps happening. And Muffy's set up all these April Fool's Day gags to celebrate the holiday, and they start off kind of innocuous. You got a whoopee cushion, you got a collapsing chair. They start getting weird. There's a tape playing the sound of a crying baby, and then people start dying. Yeah, and it gets to, we see a dead body floating under one of the docks. We find chopped off heads in a well. At the end, we finally get the final gal and Kit and Rob, who are left to try and unravel the mystery of what's happening while they're being stalked by the serial killer on the island. And there's a big twist ending, which I don't know if we want to go into right now or not, but it does kind of sell the namesake of the film. It's an interesting movie. It's not really that violent. It's actually, I thought, very well constructed. And at first I thought it was going to be stupid, and then I was surprised how not stupid it was as it went along.
No, it's brilliant, I think. Gray, what did you think of April Fool's Day?
Exactly like Waylon said, and I had seen it once before, I think it was just last year, but I was busy doing something else while A and another friend were watching it, so I didn't really absorb much of it. So this time when I watched it, just like Waylon said, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this movie. And then as it goes along, you're like, oh. It just, you're like, oh, this is constructed so brilliantly. And it just starts opening and opening and opening. And you're like, oh man, this isn't even a slasher movie. I mean, it is, but it's just using the guise of a slasher movie to be this brilliant, like you said, Clue meets a slasher movie. Probably one of the earliest examples I could think of like a meta slasher. It
predates
it really
Scream,
is.
In the late 90s slashers by many years. But
yeah,
it's a precursor to, the second slasher wave.
It's so brilliantly written, and the cast is just to the letter is just phenomenal. I mean, clearly, obviously, Deborah Foreman, because she always is. But
Valley Girl.
Oh, and what a great reunion of Deborah Foreman and Clayton Rohner from Destroyer. Except this time, Clayton Rohner isn't completely useless like he was in Destroyer. If you'll recall, he was the useless screenwriter in Destroyer.
Yes.
This time, I was like, oh no, is he going to be the useless videographer?
Nope. No. He's the plucky comic relief.
And he was great.
He's hilarious.
And we got, of course, Tom Wilson, who was Biff from Back to the Future. He's super likable. And at first, there were so many characters. When I didn't realize it was Clue as a slasher, I was like, these are too many characters. I can't tell them apart. They're all the same. But then as the movie goes along, they all have very well-defined characters as it goes along. And it's like, no, now I know who everybody is. It's
very
just
well-defined.
It's so great, funny as hell, as well as being suspenseful. Yeah, I've never really seen anything like it. It's incredibly unique, yeah, and incredibly smart. So yeah, top notch.
Absolutely. PJ, what are your thoughts on April Fool's Day?
Well, for one, I think it's a film that was ahead of its time.
Big time.
Everything I've ever read about the movie when it came out, it's like audiences. I mean, obviously, it's billed as a slasher film, but it really is something entirely different. As Gray said, under the guise of a slasher film. Even now, I'll talk to slasher fans. It's one or the other. Anybody I talk to who's seen the movie, they either love it because of what it is and how unique it is and how much it stands out from all the others, or they absolutely hate it because they feel like they were duped when it's over with, because the movie in itself is one giant prank against the fans of that genre.
Yes.
But I've always loved it. I grew up with it. I liked it even then. And it's funny because when I watch it now, I remember it being more violent than what it really is. It's a mostly bloodless movie. They weren't really killing anybody. So there's not a whole lot of blood or gore, but it's the characters are so well written. All of them carry the movie so well. And I think that's another thing that helps the film stand out from a lot of the other slasher films from its time, or any slasher films. There's always a level of cheesiness to some degree. But in this movie, it's like everybody is so believable in their performances. Even the smaller performances, like that sheriff, I don't think he wasn't even really a sheriff, but everybody, it's like, is so believable in their roles that helps make them. It's like the Blair Witch Project. What made the Blair Witch Project were the performances, and I think in a lot of ways that's what makes April Fool's Day, are the performances, because of the characters that they were given. But yeah, I've always been a fan of April Fool's Day, and I think it's funny when I talk to somebody who hates the movie, and it's always the same thing. It's like the only thing negative they have to say about the film is that, well, I thought I was watching a slasher movie, and by the end of the movie, it's not a slasher movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but there's so much more to love about that film. How about the fact that you're along with it for this ride, and then all of a sudden, the end of the movie, it's got this M. Night Shyamalan level twist where it's not at all what you thought it was going to be. And it led you to believe that the entire time. That in itself is genius.
And like you said, it's in the damn title.
Yeah.
That's what's so brilliant.
Yeah.
You just got pranked. That's like so brilliant.
Oh, just the way they play that scene off is so good. Because the build-up is where it gets really intense, and you've got Rob trapped in a closet. He thinks Kit's being murdered. Kit, they reveal it's all been a gag. Spoiler alert. But yeah, it's all been a gag, and everyone who they thought was dead is all sitting in a room. But it's not like they all just look and go, April Fools. They all just act like she's not even there. And they're just dead silence. They're reading, they're chuckling, smoking, whatever. And it goes on for a minute. So it's got this kind of surrealist bent to it.
Yeah.
Just to let the gag sink in. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Waylon, what are some of your other thoughts about the film?
I don't know. And nothing that hasn't really already been covered. I mean, I thought all the scares were great. Even though the people weren't actually being killed, the effects were killer, especially actually the body that you see floating under the dock. I think it's supposed to be Nick. It is a great, totally haunting corpse. Favorite line in the movie is after Nikki discovers all the severed heads in the well that she falls into. They get her back to the house and she's freaking out. And Muffy hands her a glass of water to calm her down. And she says, "God, not the water." And Muffy says, "It's all right. It's Perrier." That's like the best thing I've heard in a long time. I don't know if they meant it to be as funny as I found it, but yeah, 2 thumbs up. Go get yourself a Perrier with a lime twist and enjoy.
I hadn't seen this in years. I remember loving it when it came out. And I was afraid, like, on rewatch, knowing the twist, because I've never forgotten the twist. How could you? Thinking, oh, this is probably not going to hold up as well because I know the twist at the end. And it does. It holds up so well because it's such a smart and brilliant script from beginning to end. They do such an effective job of setting up these characters. Like you said, Gray, that scene around the dinner table is just so good. It's so good at giving each one of them backstories but in a really organic and fun way. Yeah, I just love kind of everything about this. I think the cinematography is absolutely dynamite. It looks fantastic. I really miss nighttime photography from the 80s. I think it was just done so well in the 80s as opposed to now. It always looks a bit overlit and stuff. But yeah, I love, they're just all the pranks throughout. The pranks at dinner, when they go to their rooms, she's finding BDSM equipment. There's even there's a John Carpenter joke. The dude with the cigar opens the closet and he sees 6 die in the fog, which is the number of people that die in the movie The Fog.
That's right.
Oh wow. So
I didn't put that together. That's great. Yeah, in the paper.
Yes, he's like, why didn't you come for me, Blake? I'm the 6th one. Why not, Blake? So yeah,
amazing.
And this was produced by the producer from Friday the 13th, Frank Mancuso Jr. It's written by the guy who wrote Beverly Hills Cop, and it's directed by the guy who did When a Stranger Calls. So these three just kind of got together and just made this sort of one-off film that was completely audacious, ahead of its time, and completely predicted the post-Scream late 90s slasher boom and stuff. Because this does feel like one of those. It has that ensemble cast where you just know everybody so well. They're all a lot of good-looking actors. They're all very memorable actors. The only slight I have against this film is that some of the pranks, you're like, how the fuck did they do this safely? And that's the AD in me going, well, how would I know she wants to do this murder mystery hotel and stuff for people to stay in, but there's one where he's hanging upside down and there's a snake. I'm like, is that snake defanged? I'm like, I the safety person inside of me is just thinking about these things and logistically how they did. Also, the first one where the guy gets smashed by the boat and his face is all fucked up and the eyeball. It's how fast can you put that on? That doesn't. If you could suspend your disbelief, it all works so well. Yeah. But
the special effects makeup artist in me, a couple
for
of times
sure.
was like,
for sure.
it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll go with it.
Maybe that guy wasn't actually a dock worker or a worker on a boat. He was just a special effects artist.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So as the boat, he's under the dock going,
Yeah.
That's right. He's just been under there putting this on.
He's the one that had a twin as well. So, ready underneath there. Which was funny. Speaking of twins, I love the twin setup throughout for Muffy. And her twin Buffy or whatever, but yet it was actually Skip is the twin brother. That was an additional twist at the end as well, which I thought that was really great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen the recent film Bodies, 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 but which is really effective and great. But this movie is a total precursor to that. Yeah. And that movie, I'm not going to give away the twist, but man, it's also got this kind of great effective twist in that film as well. Yeah, this is so good. Everything about it, the cast is phenomenal. This is a fucking 4-star slasher to me. I don't know.
No, I'm with you.
It was fun to see Amy Steele as Kit, the final girl from Friday 2.
Yeah.
And not see her get killed, or not see her survive. Of course, she survived in 2, but see her and think it's a slasher, and then it was just yay,
so good. Yeah. It also has one of the best transitions I've ever seen in a film, where he's pointing his camera at Biff, and he's and he pulls on it, but you'll see him pull on his wing, and then it cuts to a hot dog. Coming out of the package, and I was just fucking dying.
I
was
like
fucking
those
dying.
kind of.
It's so good, so good. Also, Biff, I love that he keeps trying to get laid, and he keeps popping his collar, and he keeps trying to go into different people's rooms, and it's everybody else is having sex but him, and then he finally just goes in to masturbate, and he pops his collar,
in order to
jerk
have sex with himself.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah.
Do you think they got inspired from that? Anyone, you guys have all seen the Reno 911 movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where they're all at the hotel and everybody ends up masturbating, and they have that wide shot of them because no one wants to hook up with anyone else, so they're all in their hotel rooms.
They're all just
Best part of the movie, actually.
This movie's a thing of beauty. Any other thoughts about April Fool's Day?
This is completely stupid and has nothing, no bearing on the movie whatsoever. But Chaz has a copy of the porno magazine Boudoir, right? Now, is this... I don't know why this stuck in my head so much, but the security guard in Reanimator, nobody's getting in, and nobody wants in, or ain't nobody getting out. So that security guard in Reanimator is also sitting there reading a copy of Boudoir. That has stuck with me all my life for some reason, because of the name of it. Is Boudoir a real porno magazine? Does anybody know that, or is that something that they are homaging, and it's a fake magazine? I guess I should have looked that up.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Folks, if you all know out there, if anyone knows if Boudoir is an actual porno mag, please send a copy to Gray Stat. So
my address is... No, never know.
Let me Google that. I'll be back in about 10 15.
Oh, he's popping his collar.
If this was only a video podcast,
right?
You'd see me pop the collar. But now people are gonna all the listeners will just have to use their imagination. Hopefully for the popping of the collar and not using their imagination for other things.
They already are. Sorry to tell you.
Biting a hot dog out of the package right now.
Well, folks, April Fool's Day is available to stream on Showtime at the moment and is available on Blu-ray from Scream Factory. All right, did we have a favorite film we discussed this month? PJ, as our special guest, did you have a favorite film of these three films we discussed?
I mean, of the three, I'm going to have to go with My Bloody Valentine, but it's only because I think from a story standpoint and just... I mean, obviously the kills. I'm a big gore hound, so as much as I like April Fool's Day, the blood and gore for me is where it's at a lot of the times. I mean, I want a good story and I want, good acting, or at least a majority of the acting to be good. But it's so different, My Bloody Valentine, from a lot of the other slashers. And I think it's because it's not teenagers or college students or campers. Like, to me, that's what makes it such a great movie. So of the three, mine is My Bloody Valentine.
Awesome. Waylon, what about you? What was your favorite? Mother's Day? Was it Mother's Day?
It was. How did you know? Definitely not Mother's Day. Sorry, Charles Kaufman. But it's kind of a toss-up between Bloody Valentine and April Fool's Day. And it's only because I liked both those films about evenly, but because April Fool's Day is a gag ending, it does kind of make me lean a little bit towards My Bloody Valentine, because, that's real. So, yeah, I'm going to say it's a tie.
All right, excellent. What about you, Gray?
I'm going to go with My Bloody Valentine primarily for rewatchability, kind of for what Waylon said. I would watch April Fool's Day multiple times, but probably not as much as My Bloody Valentine. And I watch My Bloody Valentine literally every year, and it never gets old. So, yeah, My Bloody Valentine.
It was between My Bloody Valentine and April Fool's Day, because Mother's Day, as much as I liked it, the rape stuff did kind of really turn me off in the film. So that kind of put that out of the running. I'm actually going to I'm going to be the outlier. I'm going to go with April Fool's Day. I thought April Fool's Day was just such a perfect movie, such a great cast. I loved how it looked. I just thought the writing was so smart in that. They're both brilliant for totally different reasons. But yeah, I'm going to go with April Fool's Day for me. All right, I'm going to ask you guys a very tough question. This is not an easy question to answer. What is your favorite slasher film? I cannot wait to hear PJ's. PJ, what's your favorite slasher film?
Is that even answerable?
Is it even answerable?
I don't know. See, that's the question that any horror fan, you always get that question. It's like, well, what's your favorite whatever? And especially if you break it down to a subgenre. But I've found it's so incredibly difficult because I like so many different movies for so many different reasons. Do I have to pick one? Or
no, you could name a few. You top three.
It would probably be like Dream Warriors, right? Which is a bit of a cliche for.
It's great. It's cliche because it's fantastic.
But I watch this movie all the time, and I mentioned it earlier, like Madman. I don't know if you guys have seen Madman, but I mean, it's the greatest movie you'll ever see that has a chase scene ending with someone hiding in a refrigerator. And it's such a stupid idea, but it's so unique and different. And the killer in that movie being like, the evil farmer who's apparently somehow lost his ability to speak, I guess. Years of alcoholism, I suppose, and murdering his family. But and then like the Prowler, I absolutely love the Prowler, and a lot of that has to do with Tom Savini's special effects work in that movie. And you know, if you hate Lawrence Tierney and you think, man, what's the best way to underutilize Lawrence Tierney? That's the movie. It's like getting Marlon Brando and then sticking him in a wheelchair and putting him in a window 1,000 feet away, and that's the most you see of him in the movie. It's insane, but they do it, and it actually works really well. You know, and the funny thing is, and this is what I find so interesting, is that slashers, there were so many being made because they're money makers for studios, but at the same time, they're also treated like the ugly stepchildren of productions by the studios. And so many of them were hated by the people that made them and everything. But now, jump ahead 20, 30, 40 years later, and it's one of the most made subgenres when it comes to independent horror films. It's like everybody and their grandmother is making a slasher film, and even then, right now, this weekend, this is going to date this, I'm sure, but you know, Terrifier 3, #1 movie in the nation.
Yeah,
made almost $20 million.
Essentially, and an obscure, ultra low budget horror franchise.
Yeah, and you've even got respectability to the level of like Stephen Graham Jones and Grady Hendrix are writing really incredible fiction, like, you know, My Heart is a Chainsaw and like the Final Girl Support Group, writing these really incredible books that are winning awards, and they're slasher books.
Yeah,
they're like really thoughtful, like horror fiction. Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it's what we grew up with this subgenre and stuff. So I mean, I think it just influenced so many different filmmakers and writers and artists, and that's why we're seeing just such a resurgence of it, and an ongoing resurgence of it.
Oh, absolutely. There's just one out now called New Fear's Eve, and it's incredible, and you should check it out if you ever get a chance. It's no April Fool's Day, but it's definitely a holiday slasher.
It is.
I think that movie had more deaths in it than like anything I've seen since like Dead Alive.
Yeah,
I was like that had more kills,
serious body count.
Yeah,
we have over 40 kills in the movie. I'll let you in on a secret, though. Those kills are fake.
Especially Jason Crow's kill. Especially, that one's definitely.
You know, it's funny, and I'm not going to give it away, not yet, because I know once it goes out for reviews, that's going to be one of the ones that gets mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
When I wrote the kill that Jason's character ended up getting, I told Eric, I said, if this movie is remembered for anything, it's going to be this. It's going to be this kill. And then when we filmed it, I said, this is going to be the kill that everybody remembers the movie for and talks about. And then when we showed it the first time, I said the same thing. The kill that everybody talks about, though, is Felissa's kill.
Yeah. Well, that one's also hilarious and nuts, and that's one of the longest laughs. Because it goes on for so long, and
it's a long ass kill, and that I think that's part of it.
It
keeps going.
It's just how long it goes on, and it's great. It's truly great. You should.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great. What about you? Favorite slasher? Favorite few slashers? Top 3? What do you got?
I'll keep it to rather than doing a whole bunch. I'll do the assignment, even though I know I can do some leeway. But I will do 2. I'll do series and then standalone. How about that?
Sure.
Like series, you already know this. Nightmare on Elm Street, because it's the most. To me, it's the most creative. They're even the bad Nightmare on Elm Street movies knock every other series out of the park for creativity and originality. Now, standalone, meaning there's only one of them. My Bloody Valentine would be a strong contender, but I am gonna go with The Burning for standalone.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Nice.
Because it's got a great villain that I'm fond of. The villain has a good backstory. He's like not a bad dude. He was just this poor schlub who was tormented by. But the main reason being, I like all of the campers, even the ones who are barely developed. They're all super likable, and I feel bad when every single one of them gets killed. I'm like, I don't want anybody at this camp to die. And that, for me, is a mark of a really good slasher movie, where I'm like, no, I don't want any of these kids to get killed. It's made really well. The effects, if you're not seeing the the neutered version.
Some of
If you've seen
Savini's
the
best
original
work.
uncut version.
It's so good.
Some of his best work.
It's so good.
Love The Burning. So there we go. Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'll throw in an extra little thing you didn't ask for. My favorite final girl is also Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street because she uses her brain.
Yes, to get out of it. Yeah, she really does. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned The Burning. The Burning was totally in my runner-ups. I was going to mention that. I think that one's such an effective slasher. The filmmaking's great. And somebody I know on this call also homaged that film in his film. I saw that with the famous silhouetted shot with the gardening shears there, PJ, as you and your Easter eggs. But yeah, The Burning is fantastic. The camera work is fantastic. The effects work is great. It's tragic, and the characters are all great. It's very well filmed. But
you get George Costanza with hair.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's got a great cast.
Completely forgot about that.
Playing the jock.
Yeah,
playing which is
I know.
hilarious.
So it's so bizarre. The other runner-up I have is another fantastic one. I think it's just genuinely scary. And it predates Halloween, which is Black Christmas from 75. That movie is so effective and so creepy. Has all the tropes of the slasher film, from the roving POV shots to the heavy breathing to, just one person getting picked off after the other. But man, what a cast in that film. And it's so well shot and made. And the everything about it, the score is great. That being said, I'm going to go with the cliche because it is literally the movie that made me want to make movies. I saw it when I was 6 years old. It is John Carpenter's Halloween. Right from the opening, I heard the music, the opening steady cam shot with the Panaglide. I was hooked. I was a horror fan from there on out. I knew that John Carpenter was also from Kentucky, and I'm from the same hometown as PJ, if that was not mentioned on this podcast. And I was like, wait a minute, John Carpenter grew up an hour out, south of me. Maybe I could get the fuck out of this town and make movies too. So, I mean, it gave me the bug to make cinema. So, and every time I watch it, I still love it. Although, strangely, I watch Halloween 3 more now than I watch the first Halloween.
Yeah,
That's really become my
so much.
Every Halloween. It used to be I watched Halloween on Halloween if I was at home, on that night, or at least somewhere near that night. But now it's kind of become Halloween 3 and stuff, which I'm actually excited. I'm actually going to see it in the theater a couple of days before Halloween this year. Alan Haworth is performing the score live, and then they're going to show cool. Halloween 3. So I'm pretty stoked to see that at the Gardena Cinema coming up. Halloween, I know it's cliche, but goddamn, it's good.
But like one of the cool things I think about being from Kentucky and is seeing the influence, the names especially, that John Carpenter used in Halloween. So anytime I'm taking like a trip through Kentucky, you almost inevitably at some point hit a sign where it says like Smith's Grove, 20 miles or whatever. And every time I always tell myself, I'm like, at some point I have to stop and get a shot of that to use in a movie that I'm doing. Cause I do those a lot, as I said earlier, adding in the Easter eggs and stuff. But I told Eric, I'm like, at some point we need to do a scene where they're having to travel somewhere and we get a shot of them. And as we pass by, it shows the Smith's Grove, just as a little Easter, and we don't have to spend any money because the state bought those signs. So it's great.
It's funny in the movie The Fog. Here's a weird Easter egg. All of the street names that are called out when she's like trying to guide them to the church and all that stuff towards the end of the film, they're all street names in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a weird little fun Easter egg and stuff.
But
yeah. I used to drive my mom nuts because at the end of Halloween, it says the Bowling Green Symphony Orchestra. And I kept asking my mom, I was like, Mom, I really want to see the Bowling Green Symphony Orchestra. Of course, it was bullshit. It's just fucking John Carpenter and Alan Haworth. So that he just put that on there. So, but yeah, my mom eventually was like, honey, I don't think there is any Bowling Green Orchestra. I think he just wrote that. All right, Waylon, what's your favorite slasher film of all time?
Ooh, well, like everyone else, I've got a couple actually. Halloween, so I'm right there with you, Brad. Like probably I watch it every year. I watched it as a kid. It never gets old. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which still scares me, and I love that movie because it not so much even for the violence, it's just got such a creepy vibe to it. It's just the first one's just creepy.
It's a fever
as hell.
dream.
Yeah,
it's nightmare. It's literal nightmare.
and it was a hard-won battle that I won with my family too, because I wanted to see that movie, and it disturbed my dad, who was the person I watched horror movies with, who was also an ex-cop. So he was like, I can't deal with that film. You're too young to watch this. So I had a Leatherface mask I ordered from Fangoria that I was wearing while I was trimming the hedges and mowing the lawn as part of my chores. And it was freaking out the neighbors. And so they finally said, look, if we let you watch this, will you stop doing that? And I said, yes.
How to get what you want as a horror kid.
Yeah. So, and then I'm going to throw in too, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Yes.
My
Nice.
fave. Fun side note, Rodney Eastman, who plays Joey, has bought a couple of Frownland calendars from me in the past, which made my life.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Cool. Yeah, that made me
That's
happy.
awesome.
And,
That's so sweet.
Waylon,
awesome.
you weren't here for our Naughty Robots episode, but at the very beginning of Chopping Mall, there is a crazy little montage of like capitalist montage of people doing going in sped up motion of people frantically shopping. And there's a scene of a kid who runs into a record store and out again with a bunch of record albums shoved under his t-shirt. And it's Rodney and I believe his first appearance in film. And it's just a really quick little moment. And I was like, oh shit, it's Joey from Dream Warriors.
That's fucking cool. I should have watched it. We actually, even though we missed that one, we watched some of the films just in solidarity with you all. But we didn't watch Chopping Mall. But we watched Runaway, which was a good time.
And I will say real quick, if we are including Texas Chainsaw as a slasher film, I wasn't really thinking of it.
That's always the question with that one, too.
That's what I'm choosing. Because Texas Chainsaw is in my top 5 favorite films of all time. Period, horror or no.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So I got to throw that one in there, too. The rules are out the window.
Yeah. I got a Black Christmas I want to add, too. I do watch that every Christmas. And actually, our friend Rachel Berger recently informed as we were watching it this Christmas that Black Christmas is probably the first slasher film. It predates Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I got one that predates
Peeping Tom.
That one, too.
Ooh.
Nope.
Oh, good pick, though.
Nope. It is Mario Bava's Bay of Blood. Or if you're nasty, Twitch of the Death Nerve, which is the better title for that film.
Great title.
That is a complete and total slasher. In fact, actually, Friday the 13th stole one of the kills from it, where the spear kind of impales the two of them fucking on the bed. That is all.
Bay
that's
of Blood
just straight
is
out of Bay of
absolutely
Blood.
a slasher film.
But yeah. It is completely a slasher, but it came out in 1971. So yeah, I'd say that is technically the very first. What we would call slasher film.
Dang, because I really like the idea that the guy who made A Christmas Story invented the slasher genre. That is just like a bedtime story that
he helped define a lot of the tropes for sure. But yeah, I think Bava, as with many things, Bava kind of he beat them all.
Yeah.
So. Those darn Italians, they were, I mean, Giallo and slashers, they go hand in hand. I mean, Carpenter's I wouldn't have done the score for Halloween if I had not heard the score, Goblin score for Suspiria and stuff.
Yes.
Well, cool. Awesome. Well, PJ, thank you so much for joining us this month. What's next on the horizon for Blood Moon Pictures?
I mean, so right now we're working on securing distribution for New Year's Eve. We have several companies that are looking at it. We're waiting to hear back. Of course, we have the screenings, so it's on its festival tour right now, and we'll finish that up through the rest of the year. That's really kind of the first and foremost, just kind of getting that thing done and packaged and in the right hands, so it can get out to the masses. Because we're dying for everybody on a larger scale to be able to see the movie. Beyond that, we have a handful of scripts that I've already written that we've talked about. Maybe one of those being we've thought about maybe going back and revisiting the 3rd Volumes of Blood script, because it is a really good script and it would be cool to be able to make that, but we're not so sure if we want to go from anthologies to a feature narrative and then back to anthologies. I almost don't want to do that. I want to continue forward doing the single narrative feature. There is an idea for a sequel to New Fear's Eve, which I think would be cool to do, but we're going to kind of base the determination on whether or not we go that route with, with what happens with the film. Now, we did have dinner with Jeffrey Reddick right before he left, and it was funny because Eric goes, I'm just going to bluntly ask you, do we need to make a sequel, or should we do something different next? And he's like, man, he goes, with the reaction that people or the movie's getting from people, the way it's resonating with audiences and stuff, it would be a missed opportunity if you didn't do a sequel. And at that point, I'd already kind of had a story fleshed out and everything. So that would be kind of cool. Yeah. And then, of course, Eric and I are producers on The Barn Part 3, which is currently crowdfunding, and for anybody who wants to check that out. And yeah, so I guess the real answer is I'm not entirely sure.
There you go.
There's a lot of irons
in the fire. Yeah,
I always say it's good to make plans, but you can't ever really settle on one thing, because just as the second you think, oh, this is what I'm going to be doing next, it's almost something over here that you didn't even see coming. Tends to be the case. So we're going to be doing something. Just exactly what that something is, I'm not entirely sure yet.
Wow, awesome. Well, congrats on all the success you've had with this film and your previous films, and the audience that you've been building and stuff. I just think it's so inspirational that you're from my hometown, this town of like 60 some odd thousand people, and you're just out making films, and you keep building and building and building and getting better and better and better at it. It's awesome.
I'm too stupid to give up.
Yeah, that's what you have to be to make films. Because boy, yes,
yeah, fair enough.
It has to be a compulsion that you're just like, what else would I do if I'm not like coming up with movies?
You guys have been through the same thing. It's like you're in the thick of it, and you're like, I'm never gonna fucking make another movie ever again. Then you get it done. Then you're super proud of it. Then you see people react to it, and you're immediately like, okay, what are we doing next? It's like we got to. Something's always going to come next, but when you're in the process of making it, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's a mix of like, oh, this is great, and I'm never putting myself through this stress ever again.
There's a real ebb and flow of emotions that happens throughout it. It's like, I'm a fraud. This is great. We're having a blast. Oh God, what have I done to my life? It really runs the gambit. So that's the fun roller coaster of making movies for sure. Congrats on everything, and please keep the creative kills coming. Really excited to see your next project, PJ.
Cool. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, our pleasure. Well, coming up next month, from the shelves of my dad's video store, while everyone is stuffing their faces for Thanksgiving, we will be discussing cannibal comedies. We will dig into Eating Raoul from 1982, Lucky Stiff from 1988, and Parents from 1989. Joining us next month will be Steven Stull, the founder and chief programmer of Bizarro Land Film Festival. Until next time, folks, be kind as we rewind.